Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Ooh, deep dive time.
You know what that means? We're going deep.
Always love a good deep dive.
And today, we're diving into a place
Oh yeah, where are we going?
that's shrouded in mystery and steeped in history.
Sounds spooky. I like it.
The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia.
Oh, I've heard of this place.
Oh yeah, it's pretty notorious, right?
Yeah, isn't it that like massive Gothic building?
It is. It's this imposing Gothic structure with a pretty dark path.
Yeah, that's the one. So what are we diving into with this one?
So for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at the Ghost Files episode.
Oh yeah, I love those guys.
Right, they went to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
That's Ryan and Shane, right? The skeptic and the believer.
Exactly, and they go to this asylum to, well, investigate the paranormal activity.
See if it's actually haunted.
Yeah, haunted or not haunted, that's the question.
Well, and these places, they're not just about ghosts, right?
They're
I mean,
not.
they have these whole histories,
Absolutely, so much history in those walls. And the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, it has a really fascinating story.
It on me.
So it was built in the mid-1800s.
Okay.
And back then, it was actually considered pretty innovative.
Really?
Yeah, they really focused on creating a humane environment for the patients.
Huh. That's interesting because you think of like old asylums and you don't really think humane treatment.
Right, exactly. But the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was meant to be different.
But what happened?
Well, over time, things changed.
Makes sense.
By the 1950s, the asylum was facing a huge problem overcrowding.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they had over 2,400 patients
2,400.
crammed into a space designed for only 250.
Oh, wow. That's way too many people.
It was a disaster.
I can only imagine the conditions in there.
Yeah, it was bad. They were really inhumane, and it became a pretty dark chapter in the asylum's history.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it really is.
So, okay, we've got Ryan and Shane going to this place, which was built with good intentions, but ended up really bad.
Right, and it's considered one of the most haunted places in America.
Okay, so what did they find out?
So one of the creepiest things they found was in a room called Lily's room.
Lily's room.
Yeah, it's named after a young girl who supposedly died in the asylum.
Oh, no.
And in this room, they recorded these really faint, childlike whispers.
No way.
Yeah, and at one point it sounds like a voice says, "Stay."
Ooh, that's creepy.
Right.
Like a little kid telling them to stay?
Yeah.
Okay, but couldn't that have just been like noise or something?
Well, that's the thing with these EVPs, right? Electronic voice phenomena.
Right.
It's easy to jump to conclusions.
Especially in a place like that.
But there are other explanations.
Like what?
It could be radio frequencies, electromagnetic interference, even the investigators' own voices getting misinterpreted.
Oh, so like their own breathing or something.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So you have to be really careful when you're analyzing these recordings.
I see, so it's not always ghosts.
Not always.
Okay, so maybe the stay wasn't a ghost, but what about the other stuff they found?
Well, there was this one incident that really shook Shane.
Shane the skeptic.
Yeah, and it was all caught on camera.
Ooh, what happened?
So they're walking through the asylum, and suddenly Ryan's belt loop gets tugged.
What, like someone pulled on his belt?
Yeah, but there's no one there.
Okay, that's freaky.
And it's not like a little tug, it's a noticeable pull.
Wow, even Shane must have been spooked by that.
Yeah, he couldn't explain it.
That's wild. So that's physical interaction, not just sounds?
Right, and that's a lot harder to dismiss as just, a draft or something.
Yeah, that's pretty compelling.
And then there was this other thing in Lily's room. They experienced some really drastic temperature drops.
Temperature drops.
Yeah, like almost 20 degrees in just a few seconds.
Whoa. That's got to be freezing.
Yeah, it's like a sudden chill.
That's definitely spooky.
And people often associate those temperature drops with paranormal activity.
Right.
But, there could be other explanations.
Like what?
Well, drafts, for one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Or it could be problems with the building's HVAC system.
Right, it's an old building.
Exactly. So it's not always ghosts turning down the thermostat.
Uh-huh. Okay, I get it.
So along with the whispers and the belt tugging and the temperature drops,
Yeah. What else did they hear?
Ryan and Shane, they reported hearing all kinds of strange noises throughout the asylum.
Like what kind of noises?
Well, they heard bangs, footsteps, even cries.
Christ, that's terrifying.
And they said these sounds seemed to follow them.
Ooh, like they were being followed by something.
Yeah, it's pretty eerie, right?
Yeah, but again, couldn't those sounds be explained by the building itself?
It's possible, right? Old buildings, they make all sorts of noises.
Creaking floors,
Sure.
settling foundations.
How that stuff?
So not necessarily ghosts.
Necessarily.
Okay, so we've got whispers, we've got a belt tug, we've got temperature drops and spooky sounds.
And one more thing.
What's that?
They set up a laser grid
A laser grid, what for?
to detect movement, if anything crossed the beam.
Okay, smart.
And something disrupted the laser grid.
Ooh, something walked through it.
Yeah, but the way it was disrupted, it seemed too precise to be random.
Like it wasn't just something falling or blowing in the wind.
Exactly.
So what was it?
Well, even Shane had to admit it was a little suspicious.
Really? That's saying something coming from Mr. Skeptic.
Right. It was one of those things that even he couldn't fully explain away.
That's crazy. So what's the verdict? Haunted or not haunted?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the answer is, well, it depends on who you ask.
I figured.
Ryan, he's a believer, right? So he was convinced the asylum was haunted.
Makes sense.
He pointed to all the evidence they collected as proof of paranormal activity.
Okay.
But Shane, he remained skeptical.
Of course he did.
Yeah. He said that while some of the events were hard to explain, there wasn't enough conclusive evidence to say for sure that ghosts were responsible.
Interesting. So classic Ryan and Shane, the believer and the skeptic.
Exactly.
But it keeps things interesting, right?
Yeah, it does. And it makes you think, for sure. So after hearing all of that, after learning about the history of the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum and the evidence that Ryan and Shane collected,
Yeah.
what do you think are the spirits of the people who suffered in that asylum? Are they still trapped within those walls?
That's a tough question.
It is.
It makes me think about, life after death and
Yeah.
the impact of trauma.
And about whether places can hold on to the energy of the past.
It's fascinating and a little bit scary, to be honest.
It is. So much we don't know.
That's for sure. And I think that's part of what makes places like the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum so compelling.
Absolutely.
It's a place that sparks the imagination and makes you wonder.
Well, you know what they say, if these walls could talk.
Right. And maybe in a way they care.
Through the stories and the evidence left behind.
Exactly.
This has been a really interesting deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I need to go watch that Ghost Files episode now.
Oh, yeah, you should. It's definitely worth a watch.
I'm going to have nightmares.
But...
Good nightmares. The best kind, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's it for this deep dive into the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Thanks for taking us on this journey.
Of course. And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring the mysteries out there.
And keep an open mind.
Always.
You never know what you might find.
True that, I know.